So versatility asks us to think about whether our materials remain usable when learners access them differently than we expected. So one way to think about versatility is recognizing that learners may access the same course materials under very different conditions. So first, learners engage with materials in different ways. Some learners may prefer reading text, others may focus on images, some may rely on audio or video, and others may benefit from editable files that allow them to annotate, reorganize, or interact with the materials differently. Second, learners access materials in different environments. Learning does not always happen in ideal conditions. So students might be studying in noisy places, they might be on their commute, they may be sharing spaces with others, or working in environments where privacy is limited. So, and sometimes even internet access or bandwidth may affect how easily materials can be accessed. Third, learners use different devices. Course materials may be accessed through phones, tablets, laptops, or assistive technologies, and what works well on one device may not work equally well in another. And finally, learners may need different access points. So a good design does not rely on a single way of accessing content. Providing direct links, alternative formats, or supporting materials can help ensure learners still have access to the materials if one pathway does not work as intended. So the key idea is that accessibility is not only about making one version of something accessible, it's also about designing materials that remain usable across the many different ways learners may encounter them. So what does versatility actually support? First, versatile design supports flexible access. Learners use different devices and formats, and sometimes a single pathway does not work as intended. Second, versatile design supports flexible engagement. So learners engage materials differently depending on their needs, preferences, and ways of processing information. Finally, versatile design supports flexible participation. So when we create more flexible materials, we can reduce barriers and better welcome learner diversity, including disability, neurodivergence, and the many ways learners may interact with course content. So how can we improve versatility in our course materials? The first place to start is with small design choices we make every day. So on the left, one important principle is to reinforce important information rather than relying on a single cue. For example, if a hyperlink is shown only in blue, learners who have difficulty perceiving color differences may miss the fact that it is clickable. Adding another signal, such as underlining, labels, symbols, or visual cues, help make important information easier to notice. And then on the right, we can also think about providing flexible formats when appropriate. Sometimes the same file type does not work equally well for all learners on all devices. For example, a PDF worksheet may be useful in some contexts, but an editable Word version may provide more flexibility for annotation, note-taking, or working with assistive technologies. The key idea here is not creating more work or duplicating everything, but thinking about whether relying on a single signal or single format may create unnecessary barriers. Now, media often creates additional access challenges, so it can be helpful to think intentionally about how learners encounter images, audio, and video. So first, for images, consider whether the image is carrying important meaning for learning. If it is, adding alternative text or providing contextual explanation can help ensure learners still understand the image, even if it does not load properly or is being accessed through assistive technology. For audio and video, captions are often a useful starting point, but auto-generated captions are not always accurate. So reviewing captions and providing transcripts, when helpful, can create more flexible ways for learners to engage with the media. And playback flexibility is also important. Giving learners control over playback speed can support different attention, processing, and reviewing needs. Finally, when embedding media, it can help to provide a direct link as backup rather than relying only on the embedded version. It can also be helpful to signal how long a video or audio recording is in advance so learners can better plan their time and engagement. Finally, one of the most useful habits we can develop is simply checking the materials from the learner's perspective before sharing them. So, before publishing content, it can be helpful to pause and ask, will this still work if learners access it differently than I expected? Sometimes materials work perfectly when we test them ourselves, but learners may encounter them under very different conditions. So, previewing content in student view in Quarkus or incognito mode in your browsers can help us see what learners actually experience. If possible, test the materials on different devices can also reveal issues we might otherwise miss. And finally, it is worth confirming that files, links, and embedded media all work as intended before students encounter them. The broader point here is that accessibility is not only about creating materials correctly the first time, it's also about recognizing that learners access material in variable and sometimes unpredictable ways. So versatility means anticipating that variability and designing with flexibility in mind. So what were our big takeaways for today? First, learners access materials differently. In UDL, we often think about learner variability in terms of how students learn, but variability also includes how learners encounter materials in the first place. So again, students might be accessing content through different devices, different environments, different technologies, or under different conditions we may not anticipate. Second, access often needs options. So a single pathway does not always work for everyone. And sometimes small design choices like providing a direct link alongside embedded media or sharing an editable version of a document or adding another visual cue beyond color can make materials more flexible and accessible. And finally, make materials work beyond ideal conditions. So as instructors, we often design materials based on how we expect students to encounter them, but learning rarely happens under perfect or predictable conditions. As always, the goal is not to change everything at once. Start small, try one thing, and think about where a little more versatility might help your materials work for more learners in more contexts.